the creation in mind and in heart of a mythical figure who personifies the very essence and the spirit of Christmas, has long been a tradition in the culture of the Western world. And England has its very own folklore tradition of a person who represents Christmas, and it is the one that goes back to the Middle Ages, and that is the jolly figure of Father Christmas. Now, Father Christmas is often confused these days in England with the continental and American tradition of Santa Claus, a figure who brings presents on Christmas Eve, but the origins of the English Father Christmas are really quite distinct from those of Santa. The inspiration for Santa is, of course, the historical figure of St. Nicholas, a 4th century bishop and wonder worker from Myra in Lycia in modern-day Turkey. But in England, there is no evidence at all that he was the inspiration for Father Christmas. In medieval and early modern England, the Christmas festivities were a long and drawn-out affair, much longer than at present. The festivities often began on the feast of St. Thomas the Apostle, the 21st of December, when preparations then began to be made in earnest, and the celebration usually concluded a little over a fortnight later, with Twelfth Night, the eve of the feast of the Epiphany, the 6th of January. This whole extended period was given over to merrymaking, to drinking and feasting, with householders saving up their food and drink for this feast, and as little work as possible was done, and idleness and misrule were positively encouraged. Back in the Middle Ages, music was an important aspect of this great period of celebration, and it is in songs and carols that we first meet the figure that over time became Father Christmas, although in the late medieval period he is referred to as Sire Christimas, Sir Christmas. This Sire Christimas, Sir Christmas, is the sprite, the muse, the spirit of the feast of Christmas, if you like. He is the person who in the medieval imagination brings joy to the home and to the hearth. He first appears in 2 15th century carols, but without question he was part of the existing folklore culture before that. The earliest of these carols dates from the second quarter of the 15th century and is found in a manuscript called the Selden Carol Book, now in the Bodleian Library in Oxford, but originating in Worcester in Western England. It is entitled Good Eye, my Lord Sire Christimas, Good Day, my Lord Sir Christmas. It is a carol that is a joyous ballad of welcome to the season of Christmas, and Christmas is represented by this figure of Sir Christmas, who comes as a ruler to rule the hearts and minds of those who he visits. He comes as a herald too of the good tidings of the coming of Christ. Now I'll read for you some of the words of this carol in my best Middle English pronunciation, trying to remember that from my MA Middle English classes 25 years ago. God eye, my Lord Sire Christimas, God eye. God eye, Sire Christmas, our King, for every man both old and young is glad and blithe of your coming. Which in model English would be good day, my Lord Sir Christmas, good day, Sir Christmas our King, for every man both old and young is glad and joyful at your coming. A quick aside, in modern English, the carol doesn't rhyme anymore. That's because of the great vowel shift in the 16th century, which is worth another video. Ying, king and coming rhymed in the Middle Ages. Young, king and coming no longer do. And there's another carol praising Sir Christmas. It was written by Richard Smart, who is the rector of Plymtree in Devon between 1435 and 1477, and whose main job was as a singing man, a vicar choral at Exeter Cathedral. The text of the carol is a dialogue between Sir Christmas and the master of a fictional household. Sir Christmas arrives at the householder's door, announces his arrival, and is greeted warmly by the householder, who welcomes him in. Sir Christmas announces to the household that the birth of Christ is a cause for rejoicing, that they should therefore drink, be merry, and sing Noel, which is a word borrowed from Norman French and means to be born, and is a proclamation and acclamation that Christ the Saviour is born. I am here, Sir Christimas. Welcome, me Lord, Sir Christimas. Welcome to all, both more or less. Come near Noel. Drink ye all right heartily, make good cheer, and be right merry, and sing with us now joyfully, Noel. Elsewhere in England, there were parallel medieval traditions that enriched the English tradition of Father Christmas. In York, for example, which had been a Viking city under the Danelaw, throughout the Middle Ages, the Norse season of Yule continued to be celebrated with what was termed the Yule riding. On St Thomas's Day, the 21st of December, there was a civic procession through the city of York, and the beginning of Yuletide was declared. The sheriffs of the city, in charge of law and order, proclaimed the Yule Girthal, that until the 12th night, prostitutes, thieves and gamblers were allowed to enter the city so long as peace was maintained. During this procession, someone was dressed up as the figure of Yule, who, like Sir Christmas, was the personification of the festival. He carried a leg of lamb and a cake and threw nuts into the assembled crowd. When the Protestant Reformation hit in the 16th century, Sir Christmas, Yule and other popular traditions were suddenly considered to be pagan superstitions, and they were frowned upon. The Yule riding was banned in 1572 under the orders of the sour-faced Edmund Grindal, Archbishop of York, as part of the Reformation purge of superstitious practices. In the mid-17th century, the authorities went one further, and the dour Puritans tried to stamp out all Christmas and Yuletide enjoyment, which they saw as a source of mere frivolity and therefore of sin. An ordinance was passed by Parliament on the 19th of December 1643, nicely timed to pour cold water on Christmas of that year, encouraging the people of England to tone down the festivities. Rather than making merry, they were encouraged to mark Christmas with solemn humiliation and to call to remembrance their sins and the sins of their forefathers, rather than giving in to carnal and sensual pleasures. Po-faced miseries they were. The following year, Parliament went one further and actually abolished the feasts of Christmas, Easter and Whitsun entirely, and in 1644, with it, they banned Christmas fare, such as plum puddings. Politicians and those who are ideologically driven throughout history never seem to learn that attempting to ban things that spring from the heart is never a good move and is destined to fail, and from the very outset this policy was unpopular. There's a wonderful broadside of 1653 that demonstrates the discontent with such miserable policies, and it just happens to have on its front a woodcut which is the first depiction of Sir Christmas in art. Sir Christmas is dressed in a fur-lined coat and hat, and he is greeting a man in his accustomed way. He says, "Oh, sir, I bring good cheer." But the man, evidently a Puritan soldier, responds, "Keep out, you come not here." But behind Sir Christmas, another man tries to attract his attention, saying, "Old Christmas, welcome, do not fear." It was during the 17th century that Sir Christmas was gradually transformed into Father Christmas. The first time we hear the name Father Christmas used is in 1616 in a play by Ben Jonson for the royal court called Christmas His Mask. Jonson's figure of Father Christmas has precisely the same role as Sir Christmas. He's dressed in a doublet and hose, colour unspecified, and a high-crowned hat, and he has a long, thin beard and white shoes. The next reference we have in print of Father Christmas is in a satirical pamphlet dating from 1658, just before the Restoration. Written by Josiah King, it mocked the Puritans' hatred of Christmas. Entitled The Examination and Trial of Old Father Christmas, it is a fictional account of Father Christmas put on trial at the assizes. He is accused of drunkenness, gluttony, lasciviousness, idleness and other vices by the Puritans, while the country people rally to him in affection. The frontispiece of the 1686 publication of this pamphlet shows Father Christmas with his full beard, sitting in a chair, dressed in a fur-trimmed hat and gown, the image of comfort and jollity. It is the first time that this familiar image of Father Christmas in his fur-trimmed gown is portrayed. Laid on the floor before him are all the good things of Christmastide that he brings, food and drink aplenty, and below is the following stanza. Behold the majesty and grace of loving cheerful Christmas face, who many thousands with one breath cry out, let him be put to death, who indeed can never die so long as man hath memory. Father Christmas and the joy he brings could not be suppressed forever, and when Charles II, the merry monarch, reclaimed his throne in 1660, So the Christmas festivities returned. Father Christmas, this merry figure of fun and mirth, was also, of course, incorporated into Dickens' novel A Christmas Carol, where he is reimagined as the ghost of Christmas Present. Like the 17th century figure of Father Christmas, the ghost of Christmas Present is garbed in a fur-trimmed gown, and he brings to the house of Ebenezer Scrooge, unaccustomed to such things, all the good things of Christmas: cheer, warmth, and food aplenty. "Come in," exclaimed the ghost. "Come in and know me better, man. I am the ghost of Christmas Present," said the spirit. "Look upon me." Scrooge reverently did so. It was clothed in a simple green robe or mantle bordered with white fur. This garment hung so loosely on the figure that its capacious breast was bare, as if disdaining to be warded or concealed by any artifice. Its feet, observable beneath the ample folds of the garment, were also bare, and on its head it wore no other covering than a holly wreath, set here and there with shining icicles. Its dark brown curls were long and free as its genial face, its sparkling eye, its open hand, its cheery voice, its unconstrained demeanour, and its joyful air. There is no doubt that the image of the ghost of Christmas Present, imagined by Dickens and portrayed in the beautiful etching of 1843 by John Leech, influenced depictions of Father Christmas for the rest of the 19th century. The Father Christmas of many of the Victorian Christmas greetings cards, with his capacious-sized, jolly and genial countenance, a larger-than-life figure clad in green robes trimmed with fur, is the ghost of Christmas Present. And many Victorian cards, themselves a new medium, he is carrying something else that was newfangled, one of the Christmas trees introduced from Germany by Victoria and Albert. This Sir Christmas, or Father Christmas, the very personification of the Christmas spirit, jolly and bearded, clad in green and trimmed with fur, and bringing to all the good cheer and delights of Christmas, was the subject of the folk imagination in England well into the early 20th century. It was still prevalent to some extent during my childhood in the 1980s. Now, through wider global influence, particularly through television, his origin is somewhat obscured and lost, as he has merged with the quite distinctive figure of Santa Claus. That is rather a shame, but then one can't halt change, even if at times one might wish to. May I wish you and your family a very happy Christmas wherever in the world you might be celebrating. Thank you to all my subscribers for the great warmth of your support over this past year, and every blessing to you all for the new year ahead.